Emma Murray is a high-performance mindfulness coach who works with elite athletes, executives, and students to help them stay calm, focused, and clear under pressure. In today's episode, part 2 of our conversation, Emma shares more of her wisdom along with practical tools to help quiet the mind, stay present, and perform at your best when it matters most. We pick up here with Emma explaining how the right mindset is crucial for achieving your best, but you also need to put in the work. So visualization is obviously huge as well, but people have to do the work too, don't they? You can't just imagine you're going to be successful without putting some effort in and actually going through the motions.
Yeah, I think that manifesting space is a bit confused sometimes.
Yeah.
We think, or Jim Carrey wrote a check for, what was it? $1 million, put it in his wallet and boom, that just happens, right? But what we don't hear is Jim Carrey probably sat every day in this feeling of like, it's coming and this is what it's going to be. And I'm going to be so excited when this happens. And for most of us, if we're really honest, if we look at what we're sitting in all day, every day, it's this fear of something not working out and fear of not having it and this comparison to everyone else that does have it. So let's say, Jules, for you want this podcast to be successful and you wrote down on a piece of paper, I have the #1 podcast for young people learning about success, and you wrote that on a vision board and you cut out pictures of, your ratings and people listening to you. And then every day you sat there looking at other people's podcasts thinking, why isn't mine being as successful? And I'm never going to be as successful. And why isn't my vision board coming true? Well, you're in the thoughts and the feelings of that's creating a reality of it not being very good. And so the work is in really one, and Joe calls it doing the work. Like, you got to do the work before you jump into your meditation to know what you want it to look like. Actually know what do you want? What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to feel like? And then you can get into imagining it, journaling about it, sitting in those feelings. But we can't just say we want the #1 podcast, but then sit in the feelings of why this is so bad and no one's listening. So, yeah, you've got to do the work.
And not only that, I would also then be needing to take steps to improve my skills and things like that, like the practical work as well, don't I? You can't just visualize yourself into success.
Yeah, so I say everyone's got a skill set.
Yep.
We all have different skill sets. But if we look at, you're all in the school football. I know I've used football. Let's say we want to be in the chess team at school. And you both have skills in chess, but the person, that you're competing against for a spot has more skill than you. So think about our skill set like it's in a box. And so the other person's skill set is like 80% box full. Your skill set is 20% full. But that box we call skill set sits within a bigger box called mindset. And that mindset box, how you regulate it, control it, grow it, will determine how effective you are at bringing the skill set.
Gotcha.
So if someone has an 80% full skill set box and you've got a 20% full skill set box, but you've got a better mindset than him, you're going to get the most out of your 20%. He's not going to get the most out of his 80%, but he's still probably going to be better than you because he's got 80% skill set. You've only got 20% skill set. So you have to build that skill set box.
Yeah.
And if you build that skill set box as much as you can, then the difference is if you've got a better mindset box, you get to access the full skill set where a lot of people are not accessing their full skill set.
Yeah, no, that
was a complicated way. I've never explained it by that, but
no, I understand. It's like some of us have greater skill sets in different areas, but the person who embraces and utilizes and builds their mindset on top of whatever skills they've got will be able to kind of close that gap even, or potentially, become the best sort of thing. Whatever.
Yeah, like I work in AFL environments and one of the first things that I say is that, if you are not to your full capacity of fitness and skill and strength, it doesn't matter how much mindset work we do, you're not going to be reaching your full potential. So, a good mindset is never going to outplay, your skills not being where they need to be. Now, you might sit there and go, oh, but I just don't have as much talent as them. It's not a talent thing. It's, a fitness, it's a strength. It's if you're not doing that work, but you can bridge the gap of talent with the right mindset for sure.
Yep. On that, is there a particular attribute that you see in people that make it to the elite level? Is there something they have in common that you've noticed or observed that they already have sort of inbuilt?
Work ethic. Scotty James, the snowboarder, has just brought out his Netflix documentary, and he talks on that about, he was one of the most gifted athletes, but it got to a point where he was not winning because he was not treating the work. He was not doing the work and treating it as seriously as he needed to be. That was what happened to me in netball. I didn't do the work, I had this talent that got me into any team, and then I just never knew what it was like to do the work. Yeah. And so everyone, the elite of the elite, all have an incredible disciplined work ethic, daily routines, really great daily habits. But then, so that separates them from the next level down. But what separates those that are doing the work to the few, I talk about it moving from warrior to magician. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of warriors that are at the top of the top. But magician is when now I'm tapping into this mindset that, and not a mindset of like, just being able to be present in the moment, but a mindset of like this certainty in that it's working out perfectly for you, that it's this certainty in the unknown that you're about to step into. And I put athletes in there like Dusty Martin. I did a lot of work with Dusty, and, talent, skill, work ethic, all of that. But he had this ability when he stepped on that field to go to another place. Like it was like he opened a portal into this sort of spirituality of like just knowing. He just knew that he was going to do something special. So he's sitting in those thoughts and the feelings around that, and that's when the ball just bounces the right way and things just open up for you. So very few athletes get to that place. You got this group that are those warriors, but the magician just, it's like watching magic. Yeah.
For me, Muhammad Ali comes to mind.
Yeah, right.
And that's right. You just assumed he was going to be great because that's how he presented.
Yeah. It's quite special when you're watching it, and so they're a joy to work with when you're with people like that.
And it's probably those that can shift into that, because it can't be easy, can it, to actually get to that stage? Like there must be a lot of people.
No, it's not, and it's something that really it only opens up when the athlete is ready for it. So, I go into an AFL club and I'm working with the whole list, and you'll see some people that think, oh, mindset's not for me, a bit like me when I was in netball. Oh, that's not my thing. I don't really need that. You'll see a small group that are like that. You'll see a big group that are very much like, I love this. This is great. I'm really active in it. But if I left, they probably would, fall away with it. Yeah. And then you see a very small few that it like opens this door and it changes their life, and they just go on their own little journey with it. Errol Goodwin at the Swans, he was injured last year and he was out pretty much for the whole season, and he just became really curious about the mind and mindfulness and mindset, and watching him grow. That is when, an injury can become a real gift for someone, that it gives you time. And so he is, for those that don't know him, he's a Sydney Swans player, really talented, young, expected to be the best. But in that's where you can get very attached to outcomes and awards and stats, and the pressure is like, you got to be great. So you feel this attachment to it. And when he was injured, like in the first game of the season and out for nearly the whole season, he really, not because of me, because of his own choice, went on a journey of learning that, and consequently has come back into the game with a completely different perspective.
Wow. Do you think you can be the absolute best at anything without using mindfulness or without having that belief?
No, I don't think you can achieve your full potential.
Yeah.
No, because of our human wiring. We have to understand that we are wired to be safe and we are wired to stay alive. We are not wired to get a great ATAR, to become a doctor, to be the best on a football field, to be an incredible actor. We're not wired for any of that. We're just wired to be alive. And so there's this psychiatrist called Dr. Stephen Peters, and he wrote a book called The Chimp Paradox. And his story is he was working in a high-end mental institution in London or in England. And leading into the London Olympic Games, the British cycling team went to him and said, would you come work with our team? Like he was in a high-end mental institution. And so he came and worked with their team, and basically he was saying, so cycling is one of those sports where you go to some pretty dark places, the pain, the fatigue, and you're fighting your body not to give up and not to stop or take off the effort. And effectively what he says, the book he wrote is called Chimp Paradox. And how he explains it is the paradox is that we are wired the same way the chimp is wired. Now, I say we're wired the same way as a caveman, but the chimp was wired just purely to stay alive with enough energy to procreate and keep the chimp, species alive. That was it. And so what the chimp would do is if he was exerting effort, he would have to conserve that enough energy each day to procreate at the end of the day. Yeah. And now, the paradox is we have this chimp wiring, but the paradox is that we're putting ourselves into an Olympic Games on a bike, asking our body to give 100%, whereas our body is like, that goes against my survival wiring, so I'm not going to do that. And so what he did was bring in tools and strategies, which are very similar to the ones I use, so that we don't feel like we're in a dangerous situation and we don't need to conserve energy so that we can go full out. And so if you don't learn those strategies and you're trying to become elite at something, your human wiring will just put a roadblock in place. So I can say with 100% certainty that if you don't have some mental practice that stops your nervous system going from shutting down into survival and protection mode, you just simply won't achieve your best.
Using those strategies, I mean, how can the same strategies or similar ones be used for everyday people or weekend warriors or students wanting to do their best? Like, any simple kind of go-tos that they can use to...
Yeah, well, I can tell you for sure, having worked with students and mums and dads and business owners, and we all have the same stuff because we all have the same wiring. So we're going to the same places. We're going to 3 main places. We're going to fear of failure, like getting it wrong, making a mistake, an obsessive focus on the outcome and comparing our outcomes to other people. That's the football player who's counting stats on the field. It's the business owner that's looking at his competitors' results. It's, the student who's comparing exam and SAC results. And the biggest place that we're going to, and that's driving this survival stress response, is fear of other people's opinions. And so we're all going to the same places. It doesn't matter. It just sounds a bit different for an elite athlete because theirs is about a Grand Prix or a AFL game. Yours is about an exam or a job interview. They're exactly the same though. And so I come back to, if we don't start with self-awareness, just looking at what I was thinking, what I was feeling. So, there's a great podcast to listen to called Becoming, it's with Stephen Bartlett, a diary of a CEO, and he's interviewing the author of a book called Becoming Indistractable. I can't pronounce his name. I can't remember his name. He was the author of a book called Hooked, and he came up with how to hook humans to apps. And once he taught the world how to create apps to get people hooked to them, his premise was, if I get the world hooked to fitness apps, then we're going to have a healthier world. But then what he worked out is that these apps are a major distraction, even though they're healthy apps. Wow. And they're causing a lot of anxiety because it's driving that, I haven't done my steps, I need to do my steps. Why did I didn't do as many steps as someone else. It's driving fear of failure. It's driving an obsessive focus on the outcome. It's driving, fear of other people's opinions. Wow. So then he was like, oh, this is bad. Now I'll come out with how to not let yourself get distracted by all that stuff. And so I say that podcast because he steps out some really critical examples around your diary and time blocking your diary to have your values and priorities in there. But one thing he talks about, which is a strategy that I use quite often, I talk about starting with recording what you're thinking and feeling each day. If we don't know what we're thinking and feeling each day, we can't move off step one. Yeah. And I have athletes each day reflect and write down. But what he does is he asks you to walk around with a notebook. And at any point you do take an action that you're not happy with. So, it's lunchtime and instead of sitting with your friends at school, you isolate yourself and you sit by yourself in the library. You'd get out your notebook. What am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now? Oh, I'm thinking that my friends don't like me because I said that stupid thing yesterday and I'm feeling really anxious about it. And what you'll start to see is patterns. Or a really good example is, I want to get fit and healthy and I didn't go to the gym today. I had a 5 o'clock class booked and I didn't go. Get out your book. What are you thinking and feeling right now? It's 5:02 and you didn't go to the class. What are you thinking and feeling right now? I'm thinking that I'm really tired and I'll do it another day, but how's that making me feel? I feel really guilty. And you'll just start to see the patterns. And so now, once you see the patterns, we're trying to catch that thought, oh, I'm tired, I've had a long day, I'll go to the gym tomorrow. Now that I've called it out, it's like, now that I've seen that I do that every time that I don't come to a class, when it comes, I can catch it earlier. And so then in that 30 minutes in the morning when you're not on your phone, you can start to think, what have I got on today? I really want to go to the gym. What could trip me up? Or I quite often get people to do this journaling. What could trip me up today from going to the gym? The thought that I've had a long, tiring day and that I deserve a break. That will come and I'm going to be ready to catch it. And I'm going to say this to myself. So it's just bringing all of that stuff out of the darkness and really looking at that. A really simple one too is when you catch a really unhelpful thought, like, oh, my friends don't like me, why did I say this? Catching it. And rather than going deeper into it, just come and bring your attention back to your breath. Take a nice deep breath, feel your breath, connect with your breath, feel your feet on the ground. And it's like just jumping off the breath back onto the moment is a way to break it in the moment. But the other work I was sharing is a way to actually start getting on top of it.
That's really useful things. And I always say to kids as well, when you're feeling stressed, just stop and breathe. Get much further than that, but it's like, put your hands on your belly, take 3 deep breaths,
Yeah. I've had people, students who are like, and I'm sitting in the exam and I was trying to breathe and I'm breathing and I'm breathing and I still feel terrible. It's not the breathing. It's bringing your attention to the breath. Yeah. So find a dominant feeling of that breath. Either it's the chest rising and falling, it's the air going in through the nose, and hold your attention on it, because my attention cannot be on the story that I'm going to fail and I don't like these questions and this is too hard and I don't know the answer. It can't be on that and on my chest rising and falling. We've only got one focus. So give it a job. Give your focus a job in that moment.
And you might know this. They say that when you stop and do that and you breathe deeply, neurologically, you actually go into the parasympathetic. You can't get into the sympathetic state when you do deep breathing. Is that?
Yeah. So think of parasympathetic as that rest, calm, digest, healing, and the sympathetic is that fight and flight doing mode. When if you think about the caveman who's fighting a tiger, when the tiger leaves, the very first thing he does is take a really deep breath. And that sends a message from the body up, hey, no danger, the danger's gone away. So when we breathe like that, there's a particular breath called the physiological sigh response, and it will turn off that anxiety. Yep. And what that looks like is where we breathe in through the nose and we get to the top of the breath, and then we take a second inhalation. And now we're really expanding the lungs and the diaphragm. And then we take a deep sigh out through our mouth. And we soften. So when Oscar gets in the car, he will take those 2 breaths and then drop into his body. If you rewind games of Dusty playing, he constantly took that big, deep sigh. There's someone who I recommend everyone to follow on social media. He's called Andrew Huberman, Huberman Labs. So Huberman Labs, he's a neuroscientist, and all of his stuff is research-based. He'll give you really good for teenagers and young adults. He'll give you heaps of information on sleep, recovery, sunlight, breath. And he's incredible. Wow. He talks about the physiological sigh response all of the time and the research behind it. So you'll see a lot of the athletes that I work with taking that big, deep breath and the sigh as a way to switch off that danger, danger, danger response.
Excellent. That's a great thing.
A great one for exams. Yeah. And the other little point for exams. Yeah. So when, or job interviews or anything really, when we are in that fight and flight response, danger, 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 where our body's just now trying to keep us alive and doesn't care about getting a good mark, doesn't care about the response you're going to give on exams, we get a very small posture. We've gone into that sort of hide fight mode. So when we open our posture, it sends a message to our mind, no danger here. All the danger's gone away. So I quite often tell students to walk into the exam room when you sit down and are waiting for reading time, sit back in your chair with your arms behind the chair, and it's opening up your posture. It enables you to breathe deeper, and it forces yourself to get out of that danger response. And then your mind's like, all good's here.
And allows all that good stuff to come back to you.
Yeah. And then I say, with your arms behind the chair, just sort of rest your eyes into the distance on no particular focus point, because when this is something that they use in martial arts all the time, when we're fighting a tiger, we're locked in. Our focus is like on that tiger. When we're not under a threat, we're just gazing off into the distance. So if you can sit like that in reading time, what's happening is your frontal lobe of your brain that you need in reading time is open and receptive. If you're in that small posture, shallow breath, what if I fail? What if the question I don't want is on the question that I want is not on the exam? By the time we go into reading time, our frontal lobe is already shut down because it's gone into survival mode.
That's incredible that the connection is so strong, isn't it?
Yeah. And we lose the ability to make decisions, and then we've got to do 20 multiple choice questions, and it's like my frontal lobe's completely shut down and left the building.
Oh, yeah, and can't think clearly.
No.
The final question I ask, which I like to ask all my guests, is what does success mean to you now? And has it changed over time?
I probably don't ever think of success versus failure, because I constantly think of that, what I said at the start of the podcast, that it's just another step and I'm just moving and it's just taking me somewhere else. So I'm always in this feeling and picture of going to the next step. So I never stopped to think whether that was success or failure. I certainly was involved in the Paris Olympic Games, and the teams I was involved with really underperformed, and that felt like failure. And I came back from the Paris Olympic Games and I went straight into the Swans Grand Final campaign. And that was at the back end of 2024, I think. And they failed miserably. And so for the first time in my life, I had this really extreme of my working life, I had this extreme sort of experience of failure, and I went and did some work as a result with a practitioner called Dr. John Demartini. And in his work, he talks about everything being in equilibrium, that there's never, no situation ever has just benefits. There's benefits and drawbacks in everything we do. And even in those losses, there were benefits to me, to the players. And it's really hard to see in those times that we're like, that's failure. And he talks about when we just want the success without the failure, when we create this fantasy, because everything's working in equilibrium, we're going to get this big nightmare to balance it out. So he's like, you don't want to chase this success and avoid this failure. In everything, you want to see that it's not all good, it's not all bad, it just is.
Yeah, they're just all
So I think success for me is just being able to be present in the moment and meet the moment with whatever is required in that moment. That's it. I do like to, I've learned that I'm at my best when I go into a space being, not always being the knower. Like, I'm on this podcast now, you're expecting me to come and teach you something, but I have to try and sit in the, space of what can I learn, what can I get out of it. But yeah, I think just being able to meet the moment and be present in the moment with whatever it brings. I mean, I like to win as much as anyone. I wouldn't be in elite sport if I didn't.
Yeah.
But I've certainly learned, no athlete is more unhappy. From my experience, after winning an Olympic medal, there's a lot of down after that. What now? Like, I've been chasing this for all my life, I think when we get this success, what we really get is relief from that fear of failure and fear of other people's opinions for a moment. That's what we get. And so when we understand that we don't have to sit in that, there is really no such thing.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Emma. It's been
Jules.
To you, and so much wisdom there to share.
I need to tell your listeners that the reason why I pick and choose podcasts that I come on just because of time, really. And I also get bored of my own story sometimes. But when you reached out, and I said yes immediately, because you categorically have been the favorite teacher to two of my children. And I think being a teacher is already such an honourable profession, but to then be so liked in multiple year levels across, two very different kids, I'm like, you must be doing something pretty special there. So thank you to you for that.
Thank you. I love what I do. So I think I feel very blessed to be able to share the lives of these young people and have some impact, hopefully somewhere, whether.
Yeah. Well, you've already had an impact in our household, so thank you.
Oh, no, well, thank you. And thank you so much for your generosity of time. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please make sure you hit follow so you don't miss what's coming next on Jules FM. And if this episode gave you a moment of calm, clarity, or a new way of thinking about pressure, I'd love you to share it with someone who you know might need that right now, whether that's to help them perform better, be their best, or simply make their day a little easier. And if you'd like to contact Emma, her website details are in the show notes below, along with the books, apps, and incredible resources she mentioned during the show. Thanks for listening. Until next time.